Basic beginner's guitar, perfect timing, a focused approach, book 1. This is lesson 2, part 1. You may have noticed at the end of the previous lesson I told you to move on to lesson 1, lesson 2. For some reason I said it something like that. I meant lesson 1, part 2. Okay, excuse me. I meant lesson 2, part 1. That's where we are now. Okay. So, a little dyslexia there, but that may crop up fairly frequently, so pay attention. The last thing that we did was to look at the, I said, kind of introduce the 5 lines and 4 spaces of the musical staff. Moving on, this is going to be a little bit of reading. I was going to have you do your, play your little piece we learned on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4. And keep doing that if you have your guitar. I assume you do. And I'm going to play a little bit of chord accompaniment. Ready? Keep playing. Hopefully you're still playing. And it sounds really fun, doesn't it? It actually complicates things as you introduce additional parts that aren't the same but go together. So that's way down the road for us, but thought you might give it a try there. So anyway, wanted to let you play something because we're not going to play anything for a while here now. A big part of this, as I said before, is learning to read music, and we ended the last lesson with a look at the staff very simply. So now we're going to show notes on the staff at the top of the next page, which is should be page 7. The 7 notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, are written as small round symbols on the lines and spaces of the staff, as shown there. And there are 5 lines and 4 spaces on the staff, and they have the following letter names. We've kind of already been through E, F. Well, I'm showing what's on the lines first, and then what's on the spaces. So E, G, B, D, F, and those are the line notes. And then over there are the space notes to the right, F, A, C, and E. Okay? So, basically, one little thing you may have noticed, I'm going to turn this down because we're not going to play for a while. I'm just going to read a little bit to you, so try not to fall asleep. So the line notes are E, G, B, D, and F. And the traditional way to remember this is by the phrase, every good boy does fine. Just an acronym, the first letters of the notes of each of the line notes there. And then next, the space notes are F, A, C, and E. It can be remembered because of the order, and again, this is from bottom to top, same with the line notes, but with the space notes from bottom to top, it's F, A, C, E, and spells the word face. So still nothing overly difficult so far, right? But very important. You'll want to spend some time memorizing these, the notes and their locations on the staff. Then we have a little quiz there. You can do that yourself, okay? Don't do that too often, but should recognize those notes as B and E. Okay, gave it away. So, next little thing that I thought may catch your attention. Did you notice there are more than 7 notes on the staff? I told you earlier there were 7 notes we're going to work with initially here. 5 line notes and 4 space notes equals 9, right? So, why is that? That's because if you noticed, E and F are both repeated in 2 different locations. In each case, one high and one low, okay? As mentioned earlier, this will get a little more complex later on, but for now, just remember, there is a high E and a low E, and there's a high F and a low F on the musical staff, okay? So moving on, and this is kind of a little comical recurring thing. I'll say, moving on, there are a few more things you'll need to know to be able to get started with reading music. Well, every time I say that, I discuss something I've noticed through the book. Even though I wrote it out here, I'll say that, and we'll go over that, and then I'll say it again. There are a few more things you need to learn, so just bear with that little flaw. Be our little joke. But so beginning, the first few more things is at the beginning of the staff is a symbol called the treble clef, okay, and it looks like this. Probably everybody has seen that. It's a kind of a universal, frequently observed thing. If you've had any music in school as a child, you've seen that. And basically, it sort of dictates the note names on the lines and the spaces of the staff. There is something, just so you know, called the bass clef, and this is what primarily pianists would look at. Usually, there's in piano music, there's two sets of staves, they call these staffs, but they'll have a treble clef and a bass clef below it. And the bass clef, the line notes and space notes are different, and so a little more confusing for a piano player. They got to learn a little bit more there. It basically tells the pianist, as it says there, what to do with their left hand. Okay. So, fortunately for you, we don't have to concern ourselves with that. With the music that we're going to be using for guitar, it's all just treble clef. Okay. And so, getting back to things, page 9. Getting back to things that you will need to know. Make sure I didn't skip a page there. Yeah, I did not. About reading music, there are also some vertical lines called bars that divide the staff into something called measures. Okay, looking at that on that page, these vertical lines, and you have at the end a double bar. It kind of explains what that is. It's usually at the end. One is heavy and one's light, like the other three there. Okay, and so the space in between the lines is called a measure. Bump, bump. Okay. And those are the bars. So, noting what the double bar is at the end. I better watch my time here. Oh, brother, I have it kind of where I can barely see it there, but it's my high-tech videography again. So, as the picture shows above, the bar lines mark the beginning and end of each measure, and a measure is simply the space between the bar lines, okay? Each measure will contain a number of steady beats, and this is getting pretty important. Not that all of it's not important, but this is pretty important. Each measure will contain a number of steady beats. A beat, like your heartbeat, is a steady rhythm or pulse in a song, okay? And this brings us to something called the time signature. If you've seen a treble clef, you've probably seen these little symbols too at the beginning of any written music, if you've ever laid your eyes on some written music. The time signature is simply two notes that reveals important information about the song. They'll appear one over the other, and right beside the treble clef symbol, as we just looked at. In the example shown here, you can see both numbers are 4s. Da, 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 4 and 4. And so that is 4/4. It's called 4/4 timing, or if we wrote it out, the letter 4/4, 4/4 time. It could be different numbers like 6, 8, for example. It'd be called 6/8 time, or 3/4 time. But 4/4 is very common, and I've noted there, we won't dwell on this much, but I've noted that it's so common, really. So many songs are in 4/4 time that it's kind of referred to as common time. And sometimes, rather than the time signature appearing as numbers, they'll just have a C, and that stands for common beside the treble clef. Okay. So, what do the two numbers mean in the time signature? Remember earlier we learned that the measure is written, that each measure in written music contained a number of steady beats. So in the time signature, the top number tells us how many beats are in each measure in a song, okay? So if the top number is a 4, can't do that and hold my pick. Top number is a 4, then there will be 4 beats per measure, okay? The bottom number indicates what kind of note will get one beat. This will make more sense after the next section on note types that we'll go into. We're going to investigate or teach you what a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, and we'll go beyond there, but basically they're the early ones. The quarter note is the simplest, and it gets one beat. So there'll be 4 quarter notes in a measure with 4/4 time, okay? I'm deviating from what I want to just kind of read. I do want to kind of follow this, even though it's a little painful just watching and listening to me read, but hopefully you can hang in there. So what am I saying? Okay, so this will make more sense after the next section on note types, but for now just remember that a 4 in the bottom of the time signature represents what is known as a quarter note. Think of the fraction 1/4, or 1/4 written out, or 1/4. And so note types, to keep things simple for now, we're going to use 3 basic note types that I just mentioned: a whole note, a half note, and a quarter note. Okay? You're looking at your page or your book there, number 8. It looks like this, right? Uh-oh. Excuse me, I said 8. 11, page 11. Sheet 11. So the whole note is just a round kind of circle. They look a little bit oblong and shaded this way. A half note has a stem on it. Same thing as the whole, but with the stem. And so this gets 4 counts, this gets 2 counts, and a quarter note gets 1 count. I'll go into that here in a second, and I'm watching my time again. So, yeah, let's look at it. I have them just listed here. A quarter note, or a whole note, gets 4 counts, or beats. Okay, that's a whole note. And you can see at the top 3 listed. A half note gets 2 beats, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. And that's how they look. So, on the music staff, they would look like this, okay? So what do we have there? You don't really have to know the note names, but they're listed there below what's written. The first one is an E. It's a high E. Remember I said there's a high E and a low E, and a high F and a low F. And then we come down, and it's an A note and a G note in the next measure, going from left to right. But the first measure was a whole note, and the next measure has 2 half notes. And then the next measure shows 2 E's, an F, and an A, and they are all quarter notes, okay? So hopefully that's pretty clear. At this point, you should be able to look at the notes on the music staff above there on the page and tell what letter notes, or what letter note names are for the 7 random notes shown, okay? You should also be able to tell the note type, whole, half, or quarter of each note shown. And finally, by looking at the time signature, you should be able to tell how many beats per measure there are and what kind of note gets 1 beat from the top and bottom number, right? Top number was telling you how many beats per measure, and the bottom was telling you what kind of note gets 1 beat. Some review and some new information. And don't get too bored, because I'm periodically, as we're reading through, and a lot of the learning to read music stuff gets a little long-winded, I think, but as we move through, the book kind of periodically breaks up into where we'll learn, kind of jump to something completely different, where we're learning chords and strum patterns. So, we'll learn chords, okay, and strum patterns. So we'll get into that, and I'll do a little segment there as we go through the book, and then jump back to the notation and reading and playing, as playing by reading, okay? All right, I think I'm going to break this up now, because I think I'm pretty close to the end. So what have we learned? We've learned about the staff, the notes on the lines, the notes on the spaces, and the timing of the notes, whole, half, or quarter notes, getting 4, 2, or 1 counts or beats, right? And how many beats per measure. We've learned the vertical lines are bar lines, the space in between are measures, okay? So a little handful of things there, and so watching my clock, I'm about out of time for what I wanted my 15-minute segment to be. Let's jump to the next one. I'm going to say it right this time, lesson 2, part 2. There we go. Okay. See you there.